Welcome to this quick guided tour of the Company Overview section of the A-Systems JobView Overviews. JobView Overview screens are a fantastic tool for keeping track of overall company status and trends. They have been specifically developed to help you keep your company running smoothly. To access the Company Overview, go to the Overview icon and select Company Overview. On this screen, you can see vital company information. The figures shown here have been gleaned from various portions of the system, including accounts receivable, accounts payable, general ledger, job costing, payroll, equipment costing, and purchase order modules. Each major section of the overview includes a graphing button. Click on this button, and the system will display a graphic representation of the figure displayed on the overview screen. For example, if we click on the Accounts Receivable graphing button, the system displays a pie chart which shows our overdue receivables for each aging period as a percentage of the total of all receivable amounts. The real magic of the Company Overview screen is that each underlined figure is a doorway into a more detailed look at the origin of the numbers. For example, as we move our mouse around the screen, you will notice that each time we pass over an underlined figure, our cursor changes, indicating that we can click on that figure and dig down to view more detail. We sometimes call these underlined figures hot fields. We will take a few minutes to cover each major section of the screen in detail. The first section is our cash section. This screen shows a total figure representing the amount of cash we have in the bank. This is the total of the current balances of all our cash accounts. If we click on the hot field, the following screen comes into view. Here we see each of our cash accounts listed with its current balance. We can see more detail by highlighting the desired account and clicking on the View Account button. The following screen comes into view. On this screen, we can see the account balances of this cash account for each fiscal period. We can also view a transaction history of this account. The transactions are listed with the most recent at the top. Back on the overview screen, the next section deals with credit cards. Credit card purchases are tracked by creating a liability account for each card and using that account to pay for accounts payable invoice purchases. The underlined figure represents our current outstanding balance on all our credit cards. When we click on the figure, we can view a screen that lists each of our credit card accounts with its current balance. We can see more detail by highlighting the desired account and clicking on the View Account button. The following screen comes into view. On this screen, we can see the account balances of this credit card account for each fiscal period. We can also view a transaction history of this account. Now we'll return to the main Company Overview screen. The next section is the Accounts Receivable section. We can see the accounts receivable balance, that is, what everybody owes us, our month-to-date receipts and billings, and our year-to-date billings. We can also see our accounts receivable balance broken down by aging period. These are the amounts owed to us, separated into groups depending on how far past due the amounts are. Notice that the total AR balance is a hot field. If we click on the number, the following screen comes into view. In this screen, we see our accounts receivable balance broken down by customer. Each customer's balance is reflected broken down by aging period. We can view a particular customer by highlighting the customer name and clicking on the View Customer button. The screen which comes into view is a perfect place to get a quick view of what this customer owes us, and maybe give him a collection call or email. We have his contact information right here, so we can contact him immediately. The screen also shows a summary of aging totals and a list of all invoices outstanding to this customer. If we want more information about any given invoice, we can highlight the invoice and press the View Invoice button. Now an invoice information screen comes into view. Here you can see all the particulars from the original invoice, as well as information on any partial payments which have already been received. You might want to write a quick note that says that you made a collection call on this invoice, or maybe attach a Word document, a spreadsheet, or an image file. If you want to, you can also click on the Reprint Invoice button and get an exact duplicate of the original invoice sent to the customer. This might be handy if you have the customer on the horn and they demand a copy of the invoice before they send a payment. 2 clicks and an email, and you're on your way. Now we'll return to the main overview screen. At the bottom, we can see the accounts receivable balance broken out by aging period. Each of these figures is also a hot field. If we click on any one of the figures, the following screen comes into view. This screen shows a list of only the customers who have invoices which fall into this aging period. As a customer is highlighted, his outstanding invoices for this aging period are displayed on the right. Once again, we see the customer contact information so that we can contact them immediately. We can also highlight a specific invoice and click on the View Invoice button. This gives us access to the invoice screen that we described a moment ago. Now we'll return to the main company overview screen. The next section is the Accounts Payable section. We can see the current accounts payable balance, that is, what we owe all our vendors, and the discounts that are still available. We can also see our accounts payable broken out by aging period. This includes a forecast of what will be due in the next 1, 2, and 3 weeks, as well as a traditional aging analysis of the invoices past due 30, 60, 90, and 120 days. Notice that the total accounts payable balance is a hot field. If we click on the number, the following screen comes into view. In this screen, we see a list of all outstanding invoices sorted by vendor. We can also select to sort the list by job number, due date, discount date, or invoice date. If we want more information about a particular invoice, we can highlight the invoice and press the View Invoice button. Now an information screen about the invoice comes into view. Here you can see all the particulars from the original invoice, as well as any partial payments which have already been made. Now we'll return to the main company overview screen. At the bottom, we can see the accounts payable balance broken out by aging period. Each of these figures is also a hot field. If we click on any one of the figures, the following screen comes into view. This screen shows a list of only the vendors who have had invoices which fall into this aging period. As the vendor is highlighted, his outstanding invoices for this aging period are displayed on the right. The vendor phone number and contact information is also listed. We can highlight a specific invoice and click on the View Invoice button. This gives us access to the invoice screen that we described a moment ago. The red and green light buttons are used for putting holds on invoices. If the highlighted invoice is one for which you wish to hold payment, just click the red light button. The invoice will be placed on hold, making it impossible to select the invoice for payment without removing the hold first. If a person attempts to select the invoice for payment, they will receive a warning message and will be unable to select the invoice. The red light and green light buttons on the right place or remove holds on highlighted invoices. The buttons on the left place or remove a general hold on all the highlighted vendors' open invoices. Now we'll return once again to the main company overview screen. The next section deals with our current financial statement. The figure listed on the screen is our current year-to-date profit. This is actually the balance of our current earnings account. We can view more financial information by clicking on the hot field. The following screen comes into view. This window is an interactive representation of the financial statement. In the list box on the left, all statement line items are listed with the figures accurate for the selected fiscal period. As a line item is highlighted, more information about that line item is displayed in the list box on the right. Heading line items merely show the heading type. Master line items show the accounts included in the master. Totaling line items show all the line items included in the total. And account line items show all transactions posted to the account during the selected fiscal period. Now let me explain the buttons at the bottom. The Expand All button expands the list box tree for all master and totaling accounts to show their members. The Contract All button contracts these line items. The Spreadsheet button exports all the information on the screen to a spreadsheet. To print out the financial statement or subsidiary schedule, click the appropriate Print button. And lastly, click this button when a transaction is highlighted in the list box to view transaction details. Now we'll return to the main Company Overview screen. The next section deals with our Job Costing module. Here we see a grand total of our figures for all of our open jobs. These include totals for contract amount, billed to date, received to date, remaining to be billed, and remaining to be received. The last total is the current costs on all jobs. If we click on this hot field, the following screen appears. Now we're introduced to a wealth of information regarding our open jobs. We can view any of 6 different tabs of summary information about our jobs. As you can see, each job is listed in the Browse box. The columns across the top vary from tab to tab. On the Graph View tab, we see a bar chart for each job showing the relationship of the cost to date, the budget, and the projected cost for each job. Each of the tabs supplies a button for printing the summary information in the same format in which it's currently being viewed on the screen. All this job summary information is highly valuable, but we've only just scratched the surface of Job Viewer's capabilities. Highlight one of the jobs and click the View Job button. An entire new level of detail is represented in the screen which now comes into view. Here we can see loads of information about the selected job. First, we can view a more advanced summary of the job. This includes contract, billing, markup, and cash margin figures, as well as a more advanced breakdown of cost totals by cost type. On the second tab, we can view a concise bonding summary for just this job. On the next tab, we can view a list of all the budgeted cost codes assigned to this job. For each cost code, we can see summarized budget, cost, and variance figures. If we wish to view one of these cost codes in more detail, we simply highlight the desired cost code and press the View Cost Code button. This shows us a detailed view of all the budget and cost information for this code. It also shows a list of all the transactions posted to this code. These are the transactions from entry modules, such as accounts payable and payroll, which make up the cost-to-date total for the cost code. Amazingly enough, we can highlight any transaction and click on the View Transaction button. This shows the actual general ledger transaction that was posted to update this cost. The transaction information displayed here can help you track down problems with your cost-to-date figures. Anytime you see this icon, you have the ability to view the PDF version of the original posting report from the posting this transaction belonged to. But that's not all. If this transaction happened to come from an accounts payable invoice, you also have a hot field here to view the original invoice information. Now let's return to our job screen. The next tab, the Financial tab, shows us detailed financial information about our job. This includes summaries for profitability, cost versus billed, cash position, and earned versus billed. The Breakdown tab is yet another detailed cost and variance listing by cost type. On the Subcontracts tab, we have a list of all the subcontract cost codes associated with this job. Each cost code is listed with its subcontractor name, subcontract amount, and cost-to-date amount. And if we wish to view one of our subcontracts, we simply highlight the desired code and click on the View Subcontract button. The screen which comes into view shows a summary of all the subcontract budget information, as well as a detailed listing of change orders and invoices which have been received from the subcontractor so far. To review any of these invoices, highlight the desired invoice and click the View Invoice button. The invoice screen comes into view. This screen we described earlier. We'll now return to our job screen. The next three tabs show accounts payable and accounts receivable invoices and purchase orders, which are associated with this job. In each case, we have the ability to view any invoice or purchase order in more detail. Back on the main overview screen, we will now review the payroll section. The figure on the main overview screen represents the total of all gross pay to all employees during the current year. If we click on this figure, the following window comes into view. Here we see both a textual and a graphical view of quarterly and year-to-date payroll, federal taxes and accruals, state taxes and accruals, hours, and rates. We can also view a list of all of our employees with their year-to-date gross pay. Highlight any employee and click on the View Employee Information button. The following window comes into view. Here we can see personal information about this employee, as well as a summary of this employee's federal, state, and local earnings and taxes. We can view deduction totals, and we can view the total employee cost to the employer. This total cost includes wages, fringe benefits, and employer accruals. Now we'll return once again to the main overview screen. The next section contains a figure that indicates the current total amount of all equipment costs incurred so far this year. If we click on this figure, the following window comes into view. This window contains a list of all pieces of equipment with their year-to-date costs, income, and profit. If we highlight a specific piece of equipment and click on the View Equipment button, the following window comes into view. This window includes a quick review of the equipment properties, as well as a Summary tab, which includes costs for all associated cost categories, as well as income and profit figures. Now, back at the main overview screen, we'll take a quick look at the purchase order overview. When we click on this figure, the following window comes into view. This is a list of all of our outstanding purchase orders sorted by vendor or purchase order number. When we highlight a purchase order and click on the View Purchase Order button, we can see all the detail and reconciliation information for this purchase order. All of the overview screens include at least one print button, which will format the information displayed on the screen for printing and present the information in the Report Previewer. This report can then be viewed, printed, or emailed. Another feature of the company overview is this button located at the top of each group of figures. Clicking this button will cause the system to display recent transactions belonging to that group. For example, if we click the Recent Transactions button in the Payroll group, we will see a list of the most recent payroll transactions. If we click the button in the Year-to-Date Profit group, we'll see a list of the most recent general journal entries. If we click the button in the Accounts Receivable or Accounts Payable group, we will see a list of the most recently posted invoices. As you can see, the company overview features of the A-Systems Job Viewer are highly sophisticated and yet so simple to use. Your company will greatly benefit from the power you can wield using A-Systems